Moribund Governance. The Ghaziabad disaster underscores the need for regular audit of civic projects. So the Ghaziabad disaster underscores means the disaster which happened at that particular place. In this case, Ghaziabad, it underscores or it highlights or it gives more. It emphasizes or it puts the focus on the need for regular audit of civic projects. So all the buildings in India or all the infrastructures of India, all of them should be checked regularly. Even to those familiar with the anarchy that characterizes India's public spaces, the collapse of a newly built shelter in a crematorium in Muradnagar in UP's Ghaziabad district, killing at least 24 people, is a shock. So even to those who are familiar with the anarchy that characterizes India's public spaces. So even to those who are familiar with India, those people could be the citizens of India. So we even we who know how the buildings in India are, even to them, this accident which happened in Ghaziabad district, um, which um, which is located in Muradnagar, which caused the death of 24 people, is still a shock even for the people like us who are the citizens of India. A group attending a funeral sheltered from rain in structure when its roof crumbled. Um, so unfortunately, what happened is that so that so, that crematorium that crematorium the roof of that crematorium it actually collapsed when a group of people were taking shelter from the rain which was happening. The deaths and injuries have left families distraught. And yes, obviously, the deaths and the injuries of the members who were in the place of accident actually obviously caused a tragedy to their family members. Since women are not part of funeral rites in the crematorium, they came to know of the fate of the men much later. A token solatium has been announced by the UP government for the next kin of the dead and relief measures for others. But the loss of the breadwinners who were in low-paying jobs has left the family members destitute. Many of the people who have died there are from poor families, and many of them who died there who were from the poor families were also the only working were also the ones who made most of the income for their family. And now that they're gone, they're dead. All the families become very destitute. Means they become very poor. So the UP government um, it has launched the token solatium, and it has given a kind of compensation for those families. The state has shown great alacrity in arresting 4 people, including a junior engineer, besides the contractor. Besides the contractor, citing culpable homicide, causing hurt and endangering lives. So this accident, which actually happened, it was an actual disaster. But the state has shown great alacrity. Means it has shown great willingness or great eagerness. So um, the state has shown great willingness in arresting 4 people who are actually responsible for the collapse of the crematorium in Ghaziabad. And those four and those and two of those four were uh, were the first one is the um, junior engineer, and the other ones are the contractors. So this disaster, it was actually taken it was actually taken it was actually taken as a homicide according to the state. It was taken as a homicide because the state believes that because of the carelessness of these people, the disaster happened, and the disaster is actually the responsibility of the state, internal responsibility of these people. There are indicators that it may use the National Security Act against some of the accused. So the state has gone so far that the state has gone so far that it might even use the National Security Act against the people who are accused of responsibility. Such measures cannot produce consistent improvement to the governance, but the yogi but the but the Yogi Adityanath government's favored image is that of strong enforcement, which it has sought to demonstrate time and again by shooting down in encounters those with a criminal record. So by so what the state has done in arresting those people is a good thing, and it is right. But what the state needs to do to stop these types of persistent or consistent or continuous accidents is that it first needs to ensure a proper governance, and then it needs to ensure that the infrastructures all over India are strong enough to support people. That approach can do little to improve UP standing, and yes, as I said, the approach with the UP state had and it went towards is a good thing, and it can slightly help for the standing of the UP state. The Ghaziabad disaster is clearly the product of a system that lacks transparency and audits, and does not yield to quick fixes or measures meant to aid deterrence. So the author says that the disaster is clearly the product of a system that lacks transparency and audits. So he's basically saying that the UP government, or the government of the state of Uttar Pradesh, is not giving everything to public. It's not conveying everything properly to public. It's hiding some things. It's hiding some things and consequences and so on, and it's also not maintaining consistent audits, and does not yield to quick fixes or measures which are meant to aid deterrence. And it's also not doing the necessary fixes or necessary measures which it has to take against those particular disasters. Every year, the monsoon extracts a penalty in the form of collapsed buildings in several states. And the collapsing of several buildings in several states, it mostly happens in the month of monsoon because of the huge rainfalls. Just over 3 years ago, several people died when a part of the bus stand caved in near Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. So, in a similar incident in Tamil Nadu, in a bus stand, in a bus stand, several people died due to a similar accident. Appalled by 41 deaths in a building disaster at Bhiwandi, Maharashtra, in September last year, the Bombay High Court framed questions for municipal authorities, including basic premise for those in authority completely helpless in preventing the collapse of structures and stopping loss of life. Um, so, um, so now I gave an example of a similar disaster which happened in Tamil Nadu. And another example is that 41 people have died in a similar disaster in Bhiwandi, located in Maharashtra, um, last year in the September, in the month of September. So this news went until the Bombay High Court, and then the Bombay High Court has questioned the authorities who are responsible for the respective collapse, and they asked mostly this question: were you really able to do nothing, and did you really had no knowledge of whatsoever the collapse was? The court also emphasized that citizens have a right to live in safe buildings and environment within the meaning of Article 21. So the court it not only emphasizes the authorities to be proper, but it also forces the citizens to be in proper and safe buildings. And the court said that in the article 21. What happened in Ghaziabad is particularly deplorable, as the cremation ground is an essential facility, and entirely within the ambit of public authorities to maintain. Um, so the author is saying that the disaster or the calamity or the collapse which happened in the Ghaziabad district is deplorable, means it's bad. um, and he's not actually blaming the center or the court for this, or the Supreme Court for this. He's saying that the um, so the area in which actually the collapse happened was a cremation ground, and the cremation ground should be under the control of the local authorities, and not state authorities, or even the center. So he's saying that the main people who are responsible for this are the local authorities. There are suggestions that the structure was poorly designed, lacking stability due to the use of inferior materials, while the contractor had several projects assigned to him in the district. Um, so there were some sayings that the building which collapsed in Ghaziabad, the collapse of that building is understandable, because the builder did not use the proper because the builders, they did not use the right materials to build these constructions. In the editorial, they said they have used inferior materials, means the materials which are less quality than the quality that they need to maintain. These and other charges, including favoritism involving politicians, are best proved by an independent judicial member, Mr. Adityanath, should realize that UP, a laggard on many development metrics, can transform itself only through rule of law and efficient implementation of public projects. Um, these and the other charges, including favoritism involving politicians. Um, So Mr. Adityanath, he has given all this. He has charged the people who are responsible, who are responsible for the building collapse and so on. Um, Mr. Adityanath, the author is saying that Mr. Adityanath, he should realize that um, if the state of UP really wants to become a better self of itself, it needs to do two things. It needs to be efficient in maintaining its infrastructure and laws, and it also should go through the rules. It should do everything by the rules. If it does so, then everything will be under control. The horror of Muradnagar should impel his government to act. So this is the time that the UP state should take at least this seriously, and and it needs to take some action. Maybe it can start audits in different regions to check the strength of the buildings, or something like that. Thank you.